Hi, my name is Hannah, and I moved to Malaysia in 2019 straight out of university with absolutely no idea what I was getting myself into or what God was leading me into. And so the first year in Malaysia was pretty tough with the transition of moving to a new country, being a first-year teacher at a startup school, and just learning how to be an adult. And so on top of that, the pandemic happened. With all of these things, that kind of led me to question whether God really wanted me in Malaysia and what His purpose was in bringing me here. Fast forward a few months in June of 2020, and I left Malaysia as soon as I could get a flight back to the States. And at that point, I was pretty confused and disappointed with the way that my life was turning out, and I was just angry at God. And that only continued once I tried to get back into Malaysia, and I couldn't because the re-entry process just became more complicated than it was at the time that I had left. And so I was left in this time of waiting. I just needed one approval letter, but until I could get that, I was stuck in the States for an indefinite amount of time. The waiting went on for nearly 2 months, and eventually school even started in person without me. And I felt like I had lost control of everything that I once had control over. I prayed and I pleaded with God for Him to make a way. And I prayed that either way, whether He was closing that door for me to come back to Malaysia, or if He still wanted me to go to Malaysia, He would make that His will clear to me. And then finally, my colleagues all got their approval letter the same day, except for me and one other. We didn't get rejected, we just didn't hear anything at all. And so I was left in a period of waiting still. I just needed that one letter. And a few days later, we got news from our school that Malaysia was closing its borders to citizens from various countries, including mine. And so my colleagues were told to get on a flight back to Malaysia right away, but I couldn't do that. And so I needed to get that letter within the next 24 hours in order to get back to Malaysia, or it'd be too late. And so we spent the next 24 hours asking people to pray. And so there were people praying, people I knew, people I didn't know, praying for a miracle. And by the time that the Malaysian immigration office closed for the day, I had still heard nothing back. And so it was too late, and I canceled my flight and tried to get some sleep. So then 2 hours later, at 7:30 in the morning, I got a message from my boss saying I got the letter and that I needed to get on a flight as soon as possible to get back to Malaysia. And so within 30 minutes, I rebooked my flight, packed my bags, and was on the road to the airport. And I made it back to KL in the nick of time. One thing I know is that God was using my waiting and my weakness and my wrestling to draw me back to Him and to draw me closer to Him, despite my circumstance and despite my location. And all along, I had gotten so hung up on whether God was calling me to a specific place, when all along He was just calling me to Himself. Psalm 116 has been a comfort to me during that time. The psalmist in 116 writes about how God has rescued him from various trials and tribulations. And so verse 7 through 9 says, "Return to your rest, my soul, for the Lord has been good to you. For you, Lord, have delivered me from death, my eyes from tears, my feet from stumbling, that I may walk before the Lord in the land of the living." It's easy to look back and see the goodness of God in the miracle, which is so evident. But I think looking back now, I also see the goodness of God in so many other ways that didn't seem so good at the time. God is good even in the unanswered prayers, and He is good even when my plans don't go according to what I thought they'd be. And He is good especially when I'm at my weakest.